Hello, this is your Scorpio season overview with me, Kumbi, and I'm just going to review some of the themes for Scorpio and for Scorpio season. Scorpio season begins at the end of October and runs through most of November. It is the darker, later fall time of year in the Northern Hemisphere. There are holidays like Halloween or Hallows Eve that we celebrate, and we're just kind of winding down towards the end of the year, getting ready for winter solstice and the winter holidays and the new year. So during this time when the days become shorter and the nights become longer as we creep towards the winter solstice, there is a darkening, not just of the night sky, but also a darkening of some of our energy as far as we're given more time, and kind of the darkness represents this opportunity for us to move a little bit deeper inward with our awareness and maybe start to uncover some of the things that might be holding us back. And one of the main themes for Scorpio season that we love to practice and that I love to talk about is shadow and shadow work. Scorpio's themes are definitely about this shadow part of ourselves. This is the kind of like the darker, hidden, more repressed or avoided, or maybe even just completely neglected and denied parts of ourselves that root deep from our childhood or from some limiting beliefs that we might have adopted or have been programmed with along the way as we've grown up, as we've developed, and are unconsciously holding us back because we are avoiding them and not wanting to look at them because it kind of can bring up some uncomfortable emotions and uncomfortable feelings. But under the umbrella of Scorpio season, these themes of deep transformation, deep emotions, there is a depthness and a darkness that can be very, very healing when we take this time as an opportunity to do some inner work. And that inner work under the Scorpio umbrella can seem very mysterious, can seem very scary, can seem very fear-based, and can bring up a lot of things. And I want us to see if we can just muster up the courage, especially if you feel blocked or if you feel held back in any area of your life, or if you see reoccurring patterns happening. Then this type of work will be super, super beneficial because it is just about shining light on what we are afraid to acknowledge. And the process of shining light on whatever that might be, whatever part of ourselves that might be, and that is the light of awareness, it diminishes its power. My favorite shadow quote by Carl Jung, who actually came up with the term shadow and shadow work in psychology, is his quote is, "The unconscious will rule the conscious, and we will, until we decide to look at it, and it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate." I just want us to think about this because in this process of uncovering our unconscious patterns, it really becomes super empowering to look at where we ourselves are holding ourselves back by holding on to deeper hurts and shame and guilt and fear from past experiences. And this time now is the perfect time to start clearing it out. So a couple other things about Scorpio season is that Scorpio is a fixed water sign. This just means that, like other water signs like Pisces and Cancer, this is very emotional. It's emotional work. It's emotional healing time. It's time to look at your emotional triggers and really see what lies underneath them that you can uncover to release whatever obstacle that might be there that is hindering you from really growing into your full potential or manifesting or creating the life that you really, really dream of and deserve. So looking at these emotions, if you feel emotional energy at this time, if you have Scorpio prominent in your chart and your sun, moon, or rising, it's important just to maybe even make note and look at where Scorpio is in your chart and start to see where those triggers might come up for you and start to just really take some time to look at it. We do have the 5-day Scorpio shadow worksheet challenge that you can begin with, and we will eventually have a full course available as well if you want to dive deeper. Scorpio, as far as with the energy systems, as far as with the chakra systems, it corresponds to our second chakra. It is ruled by Mars and Pluto. I really like to focus on Pluto in modern astrology, Mars in traditional astrology. And Pluto is the planet of deep transformation. It is the rise of the phoenix out of the ashes. It is the thing that gets uncovered, the treasure within us that becomes uncovered when we decide to just be our authentic selves and really look at ourselves in the most real and raw way. So this second chakra work, when we release through that second center, it's the place where we hold our emotions. It's the place where we hold our repressed emotions. It's in the hip area. It's in the lower belly. It's in the digestive organs. It's in the reproductive organs. It's the sacrum. It's the low back. If any of us have any issues in that area, which I believe most of us probably do or have had those issues at some point, then it's super important to incorporate some second chakra energy work on a regular basis. And this can be anything from visualizing an orange ball of energy in that second center right between your hips, right below your navel. It can be mantras or affirmations that you silently repeat to yourself or write down for yourself that empower you in this area. The second chakra represents not just emotional energy, but also our passion, our vitality, our ability to be able to really thrive in this world. So if there's anything blocking, if there's any issues, physical or energetic in that area, then it's super important to really just focus on that area when you stretch, when you meditate, when you do yoga. Some of the things in yoga that we would possibly do would be super fluid hip opening practices. So fluid to align with the water element, as Scorpio is that water sign, like I mentioned, and moving really, really fluidly. So just trying to move some of the stuck energy out of that second center, move some of that stuck energy out of the hips and the hip joints. And that includes anything from, working on your splits, doing like a flow sequence, working towards your splits, pigeon pose, supine pigeon pose, all of those things that really feel good once we get warmed up and really start to do it and really start to breathe into it. Other types of exercise and self-care that would be recommended during this time would be to do the type of exercise and self-care that feels intuitively right? So there is a psychic power that goes along with the Scorpio energy, and it's nice to be able to just take some time to tap into it. And that could just be, just a few minutes every day, as far as, especially if you're a rigid routine person or Virgo or Capricorn, to allow your intuition to guide you in whatever exercise or movement that you might need that day. Always allowing yourself for some movement, but the type of movement during Scorpio season can really vary, especially if you are doing a lot of shadow work, if you are working on some emotional healing, if you're going through a lot of that emotional and energetic work, then you might need something more restorative. You might want something more slow moving. I might suggest a stretch class or a slow flow yoga class, or maybe something like a restorative class. If you are feeling energized and you want to kind of align with this like passion and this vitality that exists in that second center, then I suggest maybe, doing some sort of really high energy, kind of cardio or maybe dance that really promotes and supports some type of emotional release. You know, sometimes we get that emotional release or that emotional high after we really, really work our bodies, and really try to look for that and maybe do something a little even out of the box or a little daring, something maybe like pole dancing or burlesque, or maybe like a heels class or something that would just be a little edgier and kind of dive you into that inner diva, or dive you into that darker alter ego that needs to be expressed. Either of those can happen and can be good for you during this time. And as far as self-care goes, you know, it's a water sign, so definitely long hot baths or warm baths, swimming, doing things that feel restorative, relaxing, and comforting, right? So we don't want to overextend ourselves too much physically if we're feeling a lot of emotional stress, which can come up sometimes when we're doing shadow work, or can come up sometimes just during this time of the year. Some other things to think about that might be an interesting practice that is a part of the shadow work is to really pay attention to, be mindful of, really kind of be the detective of yourself and pay attention to your emotional triggers. So if you're feeling emotionally raw or emotionally sensitive, which is the tendency sometimes during Scorpio season, then just to pay attention to them and make note of them, because they are hiding some really great information. They are giving us some messages as far as what we might need to heal within. Acknowledging that what we see outside of ourselves is usually all of the time a projection of something within ourselves that we are denying, or that we're not looking at or not taking responsibility for. So pausing before you react, taking a moment to just notice the triggers when they come up, taking a moment to notice, to write down, and to kind of collect, you know, a journal, some notes that especially making note and paying attention if it's the same feeling that continues to come up, the same kind of negative emotion that might come up, and whether or not and what kind of person that might be provoking it within us. So again, there's that shadow work challenge that I highly recommend doing that goes a little bit more in depth. As far as a couple other things, recommendations for Scorpio season, or for Scorpios as far as food and diet are concerned. In the Northern Hemisphere, like I said, we're in the late part of the fall season. So definitely we're into the winter grocery list. So eating things that are organic and local at your local farmer's market, picking things up that are in season, making sure that we are eating with the seasons, and that during Scorpio time, like I said, if you are feeling slightly more introverted, energetically drained, if you're really doing the work, then go ahead and make yourself some comfort food. Make yourself some food, indulge in some food that actually makes you feel supported and nurtured and nourished. And maybe even surround yourself with people that also make you feel that same way, and share meals together. Having deep conversations, reflective conversations, right? Meals are always a great time to do that. And then be very mindful of any type of emotional eating or any type of negative emotion that you associate with food and with eating, as that can always show up as a coping mechanism that we want to be very mindful of, and make sure that it is that the food and the diet that we are participating in is something that is nourishing and calming and restoring, and not necessarily just out of a reaction. The last few things that I'd like to just mention, that for Scorpio season, for the Scorpio New Moon, it's a great time to set an intention to maybe look at the shadow, maybe look at one part of your shadow, maybe look at one trigger that continues to come up, and just pay attention to it. See where it comes up, see where you can find it within you, and see how you can heal it, either by going back into doing some shadow work meditations, doing breath work, or doing some inner child work. There's lots of different ways to be able to heal the shadow, but the biggest first step is just to first acknowledge that there is one and acknowledge what is there within your own shadow. And then for the full moon is in Taurus, and Taurus, like I said, like I always mention, when it's a full moon, the moon and the sun are in opposite signs. And the Taurus moon energy is, again, very, very physical, very comforting, very slow moving, very grounded. It's that earthy energy. So if you are feeling emotionally drained and sensitive and moody and kind of, just drained from doing the emotional healing, then definitely for that Taurus full moon, again, stay in, put on some fuzzy socks, put on some nice pajamas or your favorite sweatpants, and just do what is going to make you feel comfortable during that full moon time, because it can be pretty intense during Scorpio season. If you are feeling really great, if you're feeling like you are energized with the full moon, I mean, everybody reacts to the full moon differently. See if you can let go of something, right? So the full moon is always a great energetic time to release something that is no longer serving us. So if you are feeling strong and good, then I would say challenge yourself to release something that you are maybe depending on or needing in order for you to think that you need to make yourself feel comfortable. Right. So the classic example is that, I can only practice yoga when it's my favorite yoga mat and have my favorite yoga pants on and I'm in the exact same place in the yoga studio. If we can release some of those attachments, let go of some of those quote unquote needs, and be able to practice without the quote unquote comfort of our surroundings or some of our props or some of the things that we feel like are necessary in order for us to do something that is good for us, I challenge you to maybe practice letting some of that go so that the need is not such a big attachment and it's more just like a comfort or something extra, something great if you happen to have it or if you happen to be in that environment, but it's not necessarily going to prevent you from actually doing what you need to do or what you can do just because you don't have a certain physical item or certain physical surrounding. So again, it's just another step into making you be a little bit more autonomous and a little less attached. So those are just a couple suggestions for the new moon and full moon during Scorpio season. Hang in there. It's a great time. It's a great opportunity if you really take this opportunity to dive deep within and to do this kind of self-work. Because in Sagittarius season, which is following this season, we really get to expand off of the roots, that expand off of how far we've actually gone. Within ourselves. So just like the roots of a tree, the deeper the roots, the taller the tree can grow. So the deeper you delve into yourself in Scorpio season, then more we'll be able to expand ourselves during Sagittarius season. Good luck. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next season.